Today's lesson, we are going to be writing linear equations in other forms than just y equals mx plus b, but I want you guys to do 1 and 2. 1 is writing the equation in y equals mx plus b form, and 2 is writing a linear equation given context. So take 2 to 4 minutes, complete that, pause the video, and replay it once you're done. So number 1, we want to put this in y equals mx plus b form, where we plug in for the m and the b. So we already know one of these values. We know that the slope is -2, so we know y equals -2x plus b. We just need to find b. In this case, what we're going to want to do is, we have a point 1 comma 4. It's important to understand what the x and the y are in this equation. The x and the y are every single point on the line. They're every single point on the line. So if you want to solve for m or b, you can plug in a point on the line, 1 comma 4, into x and y, and solve for that one variable. So we only have one variable in the equation. That's what we're going to do. So our equation is now going to be, remember, our x is 1, our y is 4, so that'll be 4 equals our slope, which is -2. Our x for this one specific point is 1, and our b is what we're trying to find. We don't know that yet, so we plus b. Keep solving there. That'd be 4 equals -2 plus b. Add 2 on both sides, you'll get 6 is equal to b. So our equation, we have b, we know m is -2, so be y equals -2x plus 6. And number 2, take a second to read that. So with multiple choice, I like to just break it down. It says here there's a base fee of $62. So that means that is not changing. That 62 is being added, and there's nothing we can do to change that 62. So when you look at 1 and choice 2, you'll see they put 62 as the rate of change, not as the base fee like in 3 and 4. So we can cross off 1 and 2 right off the bat. So now it's either 3 or 4. Let's keep reading. So there's an overage charge of $30 per gigabyte that exceeds 2 gigabytes. And this is important to note. It tells us G is the total number of gigabytes of data. So let's say we have, for example, 5 gigabytes of data. So that means 5 would be G. And how would we find out how much we exceed that limit to see how much money we need to spend for how many gigabytes we exceeded to? You would do the total amount, which is 5, minus 2. So we exceeded our gigabyte total by 3 gigabytes. So we would take that 3 and then multiply it by the per gigabyte overcharge times 30, and you would get our overage cost, which would be $90 in this case. So the reason for doing that is we have to do G minus 2, which would give you choice 4. If you did 2 minus G, go ahead and try plugging that in. You would do 2 minus, say we had 5, you would get -3. -3 times 30 would be -90, and the cell phone would be paying you money to go over the gigabyte usage. So that's why it's choice 4. Let's go to the next page. We're going to write linear equations in 3 different ways today. So I want to take a look at the equation we have here, which is 4 minus 2y equals 2x. We're going to put it in slope-intercept form first. So slope-intercept form is what we've been working with. It's y equals mx plus b. Now, why do you think that's called slope-intercept form? Well, think about it. What do we plug in when we find the equation, linear equation in this form? You plug in the slope, and you plug in the y-intercept. That's why it's called slope-intercept form. So notice here, we have to always, for slope-intercept form, we always get the y by itself. So that's what we're going to have to do with any equation in order to put it in linear equation. To put in slope-intercept form, we have to get the y by itself. So when I have our equation, 4 minus 2y equals 2x, in order to get the y by itself, I'm first going to subtract 4 on both sides. So we have negative 2y equals 2x minus 4. And then the y is not by itself yet. We have to divide negative 2 on both sides. And that would be y is now by itself. So y equals negative x plus 2 would be the slope-intercept form. Now, standard form is another way of writing a linear equation. That is with you get x and y on the same side. So ax plus by equals c. That's the slope-intercept form, where a, b, and c are just a and b are coefficients, x and y, and c is a constant. But a, b, and c here are integers. So when I look at our equation, which is 4 minus 2y equals 2x, to put this in standard form, all I have to do is get x and y on the same side. So I'm going to add 2y on both sides, add 2y. You'll have 2x plus 2y equals 4. That is an answer. You could also simplify that, and so simplify that further. You can see you can take out 2, so you can divide every term by 2 here, and you have x plus y equals 2. That's the better answer, because it's completely simplified. So that is standard form. Standard form is just x and y on the same side, and all numbers are integers. And make sure the other side is the constant. So there is a third way of writing linear equations, which is point-slope form. And point-slope form is exactly how it sounds. You just need a point, and you need a slope, and then you can write it in you can write the linear equation in point-slope form. So point-slope form looks like this. It's y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So m is still the slope, and then x1, y1 in the equation, x1, y1. These stand for a specific point. You have to have a specific point to plug in there. So specific point on the line is the x1, y1. And x and y, same thing as they have been. The x and the y are just every single point on the line, where x1 and y1 are one specific point. So if I take a look at our equation here, if I want to put this into point-slope form, I have to plug in a point. I have to plug in the slope. That's exactly what we have here. So that would be y minus y1 in this case is 1 equals m x. Ooh, actually, we know our m, so we can plug in for the slope there. Equals our slope, which is 2. X, and then our x1 is 2. Leave it like that. That's all you gotta do. Now you could convert this into y equals mx plus b form or standard form if you want to. I could do that real quick. So if you distribute that 2 in, you'll see it's y minus 1 equals 2x minus 4. Add 1 on both sides. You get y equals 2x minus 3. So you can convert this into slope-intercept form. You can put it in the standard form by getting the x and the y on the same side, leaving the constant on the other side. So that's it for the 3 forms. We're going to practice them from here, so let's go to the next page. I want you guys to take 3 to 6 minutes. Using the description, a line passes through the point 4, -2, and has a slope of -1. I want you guys to write this linear relationship in slope-intercept form, point-slope form, and standard form. And I want you to graph this line using your slope-intercept form, and then graph it again using your point-slope form. What I'm trying to show you guys by doing that is I want to show you guys why one way is much easier, and why we use it when we are graphing usually than the other way. So they should be the same line at the end. So take 3 to 6 minutes, pause this video, and complete that. Slope-intercept form, that would be y equals mx plus b, where we plug in for the slope, m, and the intercept, b. So we know the slope is -1, so that'd be y equals -1, or just negative x plus b. I don't know the b yet, so what we're going to do is the x and the y stand for every single point on the line. We know one point, which is 4, -2. I'm going to plug that in. So my y value would be -2 equals negative, plug in 4 for x, plus b. That'd be -2 equals -4 plus b. I get b equal to 2. So my y equals mx plus b form for this line would be y equals, our slope is -1, so it'd be -x plus 2. And how you would graph it using slope-intercept form. Well, we know the y-intercept is 2, and then we just go down 1 over 1, down 1 to the right one, down 1 to the right one, and just keep plotting it so it's as perfect as possible. We want to make sure it's going through all the points. Use a ruler if you got it. Extend the line all the way through the graph. Make sure you put arrows on the end. And also make sure you label the line y equals -x plus 2. So now we're going to do that same exact thing, but with point-slope form. So remember, point-slope form is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, where the m is still a slope, and then x1, y1 is a specific point on the line. And then x and y are every single point on the line. So we have a point on the line, and we have the slope. So this is going to be rather easy to plug in, because that's all we need for a point slope. We need a point and a slope. So this would be y minus my y1. Be careful, it's y minus. Make sure you always use parentheses when you're plugging in, then you're less likely to make a mistake. So y minus parentheses -2. Whenever I'm substituting something in, I use parentheses. My slope is -1, so I'm just going to put negative. And then x, my x1 is 4. You can put that in parentheses also if you'd like. So now I'm just going to take this one more step further, and I'm just going to add, I'm going to keep change that minus the negative. So that would really be y. That would really be y plus 2 equals -x minus 4. Either of those is completely fine. You can plug in you can use either of those for point slope form. And then when you're graphing this is why I think it's easier to graph slope-intercept form just using the slope and the y-intercept, because you're going to look here, what's our starting point? What's the point we want to look at? If you look at this, a lot of people might say, oh, the y is 2 and the x is -4. Or if you look up here, you could say, oh, the y is -2, the x is -4. You can make that mistake so easily because there's a minus sign in our point slope form already in there. So you have to be careful if you're graphing using point slope. Remember the minus sign, it's going to be just the x1. That minus sign does not tell you the actual, that the 2 and the 4 are negative. We have to look for the sign on the 2 and the 4. So the sign on the 2 is -2. The sign on the 4, it's positive. So our point would be 4, -2. And then our slope is -1. So we plot all those points. graph the line, you'll see that it's the same exact line, but it's just a little bit more difficult to graph, I think. Make sure you label it. Same thing, same way. Arrows in the end, extend all the way through, and that would be y plus 2 is equal to negative x minus 4. Now to put this in standard form, what we're going to want to do for this is, I think the easiest way is, you see above where we put this into y equals mx plus b form, right up here. Just start from there. So I have y equals negative x plus 2. If I want to get my x and y all on one side, let's just add x on both sides, and we'll now have x plus y equals 2. X and y are on the same side. They have integer coefficients. The constant's an integer. That's all you gotta do for standard form. So, the moral of that is we'll make sure you guys are good with all three forms, and you see how it's easiest to graph if you have slope-intercept form. So that's it. Let's go to the next page. On this next page, I want you guys to just answer the top question and then put the equation, put that linear equation, that line, into point slope form, slope-intercept form, and standard form. So take 3 to 5 minutes and do that. Pause the video if you haven't. Looking at that top question, so Susan and Kath both have two different equations for a line. And we want to justify why both students are correct. So when it says justify, you can show work as your main answer. So you can show work, and you're good as long as the work is all correct. Explain is when you have to use words. So justify, we could show work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take each of these points, and I'm going to find the linear equation that passes through those 2 points myself. So let's use it. Let's first find the slope. We have to find the slope of that. Since we have 2 points, we can find the slope. So that'll be 1 minus 4 over 6 minus negative 3. Make sure to plug in negative 3 in parentheses. You would get negative 3 over 9, which is negative 1/3. So that's my slope. I see Susan over here. She wrote point slope form. So I'm going to use point slope form also. I'm going to use the point negative 3 comma 4. So that would be y minus 4, that's my y1, equals the slope, which is negative 1/3, x minus negative 3. Make sure you plug that negative inside parentheses. When you simplify that, you would get y minus 4 equals negative 1/3. Then change that, that'll be x plus 3. Well, that is already Susan's answer. So Susan's correct. Now let's simplify that and get that into y equals mx plus b form to see that Kathy also has the same answer. So I'm going to distribute that negative 1/3 in to the parentheses. So that would be y minus 4 equals negative 1/3 x. Negative 1/3 times 3 would be minus 1. Then I add 3 to both sides. That would be y equals negative 1/3 x plus 3. And look at that. That is what Kathy also got. So they are both correct. They are equivalent equations. So let's take a look at this last question here. We're going to put this line into all 3 forms. We're going to start with point slope form. So we first need to find a point, or you can first find the slope. I'll find the slope. We need 2 points, so we might as well pick a point here. So I'm going to take a look here. Well, I see that our y-intercept is 0, 3. And then where's another nice point? I got another nice point it looks to be here at negative 5, comma 5. So let's take a look at this. This is 0, comma 3. This is negative 5, comma 5. So I'm going to go off to the side and find the slope. So that would be 5 minus 3 over negative 5 minus 0. We would then get for a slope 2 over negative 5, which is just negative 2/5. So my slope is negative 2 over 5. Now for my point slope form, remember that is y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. You can use any point you want for x1 or y1. So I'm going to show you guys like two answers you could get using the points that I just used. So I'm first going to do negative 5, comma 5. So my y1 is 5, so y minus 5 equals m, which is negative 2 over 5. X, now it's x minus a negative 5, so it'll be x plus 5. That's one answer you could get. But say you wanted to use 0, 3 as your point. Go right ahead. That's completely fine. So that would just be y minus 3 in this case equals negative 2 over 5. X minus 0, which will just simplify to x. So either of these are completely fine. And you can use another point in there too. And that would work. Slope-intercept form. So we found the slope actually. It's negative 2 over 5. We know the y-intercept is 3. So that would just be y equals negative 2 over 5x plus 3. Now let's put that into standard form. So I'm going to add the negative 2 over 3x on both sides. So that'll be, or you're going to add 2 over 3x on both sides. So it'll be 2 over 5x plus y equals 3. And then we need to make sure that we have all integer coefficients and constants. So I'm going to multiply this whole equation by 5. Because that's going to make that 2 over 5x just a 2. We want that integer. So that would now be 2x plus 5y. Make sure you multiply by everything equals 15. And that would be my standard form. So that's it. We have classwork here with all different types of linear equations writing, and that's all for this.